Now we're going to briefly spend a few minutes to looking at what you need to do as a business if you're interested in renewable energy for your facility. This table that I've just put up goes through the various technologies that we've talked about and what you need to consider when making a decision to invest or not. So we looked at those ones that I mentioned: solar PV, wind's still viable at small scale operations, but it's not as viable as some of the other ones. Plus solar hot water, anaerobic digestion and biomass boilers, as you can see there. Site demand is how much electricity you use, and there's a slide in a moment that talks about why this is important. You've got to worry about it. Available space, because in some of these things you're going to be putting equipment there, so you've got to have the space to put the equipment. Resource availability. It's no use putting a wind turbine up if there's no wind. Planning restrictions. Well, with some technologies you have to worry about whether you'll get approval from the local council. I mean, if you were in the middle of Sydney and proposed to put up a 2 meg wind turbine, which would have a tower around 80 to 100 metres high, clearly you would run into problems with your local council. Network restrictions. This is where the network service provider, such as Ausgrid or Endeavour or Energex, Ergon, all of those organisations, a lot of them don't like certain types of renewable energy, particularly solar and wind, because if the wind stops blowing or the sun stops shining because a cloud passes over, the power output of those renewable generators drops very rapidly, and it can cause disturbances in the local network. And the final thing is maintenance capabilities, because you're introducing new technology onto your site, and you've got to be confident that you can maintain it. So I mentioned that the business about why site demand is important. So the brown curve shows the power output from a typical site and the solar PV panels, and the blue curve could be a low profile, how much electricity you use during the day at your plant. Now, when the solar panels are generating, and what they're doing is displacing electricity that you have to purchase, it's worth, well, I've got perhaps 25 cents a kilowatt hour to you, because you're not having to buy power at 25 cents a kilowatt. However, in the bit where the output of your solar panel exceeds your site demand, all you can do with that power is export it back into the grid. And yes, you can export it back into the grid, and you will be paid for that power, but it may only be at 8 cents a kilowatt hour. And if that meant, remember back to an earlier slide, a levelized cost. If the levelized cost of your solar PV system is 15 cents a kilowatt hour, then you're doing well if you're displacing purchase power, but you're not doing well if all you're doing is selling the power at a cost less than the price you'll get for it. Okay, so that's why site demand is very important, which is why when we go through this, which are the key steps in determining, and this I'm using an example of solar PV as suitable for you, but this applies to any renewable energy technology. First thing you've got to do is understand your load and what your load profile is, then identify where you can put it, then estimate the savings, and then speak to somebody who can put it in for you. So we've already talked about the question of understanding your site demand and what output you can get from your unit. And that's the reason why we've got these comments about you should be aiming to meet your demand but don't oversize your unit, because those FIT feed-in tariffs, a term that you may have heard mentioned. A feed-in tariff is how much money you will be paid by a network to export power. Those feed-in tariffs have been dropping quite markedly over the recent times, and so I said before, you don't want to oversize your system. The next thing you need to do is to find out where you're going to put your system, and this is just a matter of looking over your site to find and we're using an example of solar PV, a suitable roof, a typical north-facing roof that you could put the solar panels on, or if you're looking at a not a roof, but there's no roof, but you've got plenty of vacant land, you could look at ground-mounted solar panels, or if you want to put in a anaerobic digestion facility, you've got to have a suitable space to put it's going to be tanks, vessels, pumps, so you've got to have a suitable space on your site where you can put all of this equipment. So you need to be looking around for it. And ideally, where you put the renewable energy generator is not all that far away from where you use the electricity, because otherwise you've got to run additional electric cable and things like that. And the next thing you need to do is to work out or estimate the savings, work out how much it's going to cost to install the equipment, how much and what benefit you'll receive from installing that equipment. How much electricity you don't have to purchase, how much electricity you'll sell to the network, and just see what the savings are. And the AFGC, as part of this program, this Empower program, has set up a tool on the AFGC's website that can help you with that analysis, lead you through estimating the savings, estimating the costs, so that you'll get an idea of what the value to you is of an investment in renewable energy, and it can then help you decide whether to go to the next step, which is to approach installers and ask them for quotes to come in and install the solar panels for you. And just a note there, one thing that helps you with pretty well all forms of renewable energy is, just as you as a food manufacturer or somebody in the grocery supply chain have the AFGC as your peak industry body, the solar panels or wind turbines or anaerobic digestion facilities have their own council, and that's the Clean Energy Council. And the Clean Energy Council keeps a register of accredited installers. So if you get somebody who is with the Clean Energy Council, you can have some confidence that they are a reputable installer. And this final slide in my bit, before I hand back to Katik, is just a couple of examples of what has been done. So here you can see a biogas project at AJ Bush & Son, which is I think they're a meat processor. They got money from the Clean Energy Finance Corporation to do one of those anaerobic digesters. So that's what they have, an anaerobic digester to deal with all the high the liquid products which have very high, waste products which have a very high organic content. It goes into the vessels, produces the biogas, and the biogas then is run into engines which turn generators to produce electricity that runs the facility. And there you could see that it saved, it reduced their electricity demand by 35%. Another one was the Bertoli Wines, who put, again, same sort of thing, that they were able to put solar hot water panels on their roof to generate hot water, which there at 90 degrees, which was used for cleaning, so they didn't need to have a separate gas, the burn gas to do that, and also were able to produce solar electricity, which was used for power generation and to displace electricity that was used for in the refrigerators. Okay, and while we've got that, just something to think about with that final fact there, I'll now hand back